There comes a moment in every believer's life when the truth becomes undeniable, when the dust finally settles and your heart whispers what you tried so long to ignore. They didn't hurt you by accident. They hurt you on purpose. The betrayal you felt, the disrespect they showed, the cruelty they delivered with a straight face, none of it was a misunderstanding. It was a conscious, intentional choice. They watched your heart break without flinching. They saw your tears without softening. They witnessed your silence and mistook it for weakness. They had no mercy, no compassion, no fear of Allah as they pushed you deeper into pain they fully intended to cause. But what they never realized was that while they were plotting in darkness, Allah was watching in full light, recording every word, every wound, every injustice with the precision of the most just. He watched you cry yourself to sleep. He watched you question yourself. He watched you carry pain that wasn't yours to carry. And not once did he forget, overlook, or dismiss what was done to you. And now, the same hands that once struck you without hesitation are trembling under consequences they can no longer avoid, because Allah's delay was never abandonment. It was strategy, wisdom, and timing. This isn't revenge. This isn't coincidence. This is divine justice unfolding, slowly, powerfully, and exactly when their arrogance blinded them the most. So today we step into 5 powerful lessons, revealing why they showed you no mercy, why Allah allowed it, and why their repercussions are finally catching up to them in ways they never imagined. They treated you in ways no heart deserves, and they did it without hesitation, without remorse, without even a flicker of humanity, as if your pain meant nothing and your emotions were disposable. They acted as though hurting you carried no consequence, as though Allah was not watching every moment they chose to be cruel, as though the one who created the heart would overlook the one they shattered. But the truth is, every act of mercilessness they committed was witnessed by the most merciful himself, and nothing they did slipped beyond his sight. They thought walking away from the damage meant the damage disappeared. They thought your silence meant acceptance. They thought your patience meant permission. But what they never understood is that Allah's knowledge encompasses the whispers of the soul and the cries buried so deep even you couldn't express them. He saw the look in your eyes when they broke you. He saw the moments you stayed awake questioning your worth. He saw how hard you tried to keep your dignity while they chipped away at it piece by piece. And while they believed no one would ever hold them accountable, Allah was writing everything down with justice sharper than any sword. The words they used to humiliate you, the actions they took to belittle you, the traps they set to watch you fall. They showed you no mercy, but Allah surrounded you with His mercy. They hid their intentions in darkness, but Allah exposed their souls in His light. They chose cruelty, but Allah chose protection for you. And the most powerful truth of all is this: the moment they decided to hurt you, they stopped fighting you and started fighting Allah's justice. And no one, no matter how powerful, escapes the consequences. What they did to you was not a harmless mistake or a moment of confusion. It was deliberate, calculated, and carried out with full awareness. But what they never realized is that the very harm they intended to break you became the fire Allah used to elevate you, purify you, and reshape you into someone they could never defeat again. Every insult they hurled, every betrayal they executed, every moment they made you feel small was actually pushing you toward a version of yourself that only hardship could unlock. Because Allah, in His infinite wisdom, often builds His strongest servants through the storms others create. They thought their cruelty would crush your spirit, but Allah allowed it to carve your strength. They thought their betrayal would finish you, but Allah allowed it to free you from people unworthy of your sincerity. They thought their rejection would leave you lost, but Allah used it to redirect you to a path where only those written for your destiny can walk beside you. The Prophet, peace be upon him, taught us that when Allah loves a servant, He tests them. And sometimes those tests come through the hands of people who have no idea they are being used as tools in a divine plan far greater than their intentions. So while they celebrated your struggle, Allah was preparing your rise. While they mocked your pain, Allah was polishing your heart. While they thought they were diminishing you, Allah was quietly elevating you to a station you would have never reached without experiencing exactly what you went through. And now as your strength grows and your faith deepens, the truth is clear. Their intentional harm was never the end of you. It was the spark of your transformation, the beginning of your elevation, and the moment Allah started writing a destiny they were never meant to be part of. They didn't just hurt you by accident or out of a moment of weakness. They meant it. They intended the pain. They delivered it with awareness and precision, and they walked away believing they would never have to answer for the sleepless nights they caused, the self-doubt they planted, the humiliation they made you swallow. But what they failed to understand is that every act of intentional harm sets in motion a chain of divine consequences that no human can escape. And now those consequences are unfolding around them with the same clarity and intensity as the pain they once took pleasure in giving you. They may not admit it, but the weight they're carrying now, the setbacks they're facing, the strange, sudden heaviness in their life. This isn't random. It's not coincidence. It's not bad luck. It's Allah returning to them what they sent out. Because the one who is Al-Adl, the most just, never allows injustice to float freely without returning to its sender. The same way they intentionally broke your heart, Allah is intentionally breaking the illusions they built their arrogance on. The same way they laughed when you hurt, Allah is showing them how quickly He can take away the things they took for granted. The same way they walked away from your wounds without remorse, Allah is now surrounding them with situations they cannot escape, problems they cannot ignore, mirrors they cannot look into without remembering the wrong they did. And here's the most powerful truth. Your suffering was temporary, but their consequences will be transformative. Because Allah does not punish to destroy. He punishes to awaken, to humble, and to remind them that hurting someone who did nothing but carry sincerity is one of the gravest sins a heart can commit. What they meant to harm you has now circled back to them with divine precision, and whether they admit it or not, they are now face to face with the reality they created. A reality written not by their hands, but by Allah's justice. One of the most misunderstood realities of life is mistaking Allah's silence for His approval. And that is exactly the mistake the people who hurt you made. They believed that because nothing happened to them immediately, because their lives seemed to flow without interruption, because their schemes appeared to succeed, Allah was on their side, when in reality, the most forbearing, Al-Halim, often delays punishment not to protect someone, but to grant them time to reflect, to repent, to turn back before the consequences become irreversible. And while they were out there celebrating their cruelty, mocking your pain, and feeling untouchable in their arrogance, Allah was extending the rope, not to lift them higher, but to let them walk far enough down their path that when the fall comes, the weight of their actions will hit with undeniable clarity. They misinterpreted this delay, thinking they had escaped accountability, never realizing that Allah is recording every detail. Every word they whispered behind your back, every trap they set, every humiliation they meticulously planned, every intention they harbored to harm you. Nothing escapes His knowledge, nothing is lost, and every moment of seeming success was carefully calculated in the divine ledger. Every day they lived without immediate consequences was not a blessing, but a warning, a final breath before the storm, an opportunity to turn back that they arrogantly ignored, and a time that Allah strategically used to expose the fullness of their hearts and intentions. The Prophet, peace be upon him, warned us that sometimes Allah gives the oppressor time, even granting them apparent ease, only to seize them later in ways that leave no escape, no mitigation, and no denial. And this is precisely what is unfolding now. What they mistook for freedom was actually an expansion of their trial. What they celebrated as victory was actually the calm before the storm, and what they assumed was Allah's negligence was his perfect, measured, and terrifyingly precise orchestration. And now, when their relationships falter, when their peace begins to fracture, when the ease they once flaunted slips from their hands, when subtle signs of instability, loss, and confusion ripple through their life, they will finally grasp that the delay they misread as divine approval was actually a final chance for reflection, a mercy they rejected, and a warning they chose to ignore. Allah delayed not to protect them, but to expose them, not to reward them, but to reveal the true nature of their hearts, not to spare them, but to allow the fullness of their arrogance and cruelty to manifest so that justice could arrive in its most complete and undeniable form. And now that the appointed time has come, the consequences they thought they had escaped are arriving. Undeniable, unavoidable, precise, measured and unfolding exactly as Allah decreed. They were never safe, they were only unaware, and now every humiliation, every plot, every deceit they inflicted upon you is returning with clarity, weight, and authority only Allah can deliver, proving that patience, faith, and trust in the Most Wise are the greatest shields for the oppressed, while the arrogance of the oppressor is what ultimately leads to their own downfall. What they never understood, and what they could never have predicted, is that your healing was never just about you. It was a force greater than them, a sign of Allah's direct intervention, a signal that the scales of justice were quietly tipping in your favor. Every tear they caused, every insult they hurled, every betrayal they engineered became fuel for your eventual rise. And the moment Allah began restoring your heart, mending your spirit, and filling your soul with clarity, the very foundations of their false power began to crumble. Some people were only able to stand tall as long as you were broken, confused, and hurting, believing that your suffering was proof of their superiority. But the second you started to reclaim your peace, your dignity, your clarity, your resilience, the very illusion they built around their strength started collapsing. They never realized that their confidence was fed by your wounds, their arrogance was powered by your vulnerability, their pride was propped up by your struggles, and their sense of control over your life was sustained by your silence. They fought hard to keep you down because deep inside, they knew that the moment you healed, you would see them for who they truly were. And the moment you saw the truth, their control, their manipulation, their influence over your emotions would vanish like smoke in the wind. But what they could never comprehend is that when Allah heals a heart, He doesn't simply repair what was broken. He strengthens it beyond measure, instills in it a clarity that exposes every liar, every hypocrite, every oppressor, and every person who thrived off your suffering, and equips you with a spiritual insight they could never match. This healing is not only restoration, it is the beginning of divine reversal, where ease moves toward you and hardship moves toward them, where blessings pour upon your life and doors close upon theirs, where the pain they once inflicted becomes the very weight that presses down on their hearts and souls. Allah does not allow a sincere heart to rise without letting those who crushed it face the consequences of their actions. And as your light returns, the seeds of their downfall are quietly taking root. First in their relationships, then in their peace, then in their stability, and finally in the hidden chambers of their hearts where guilt, fear, and regret begin to boil relentlessly. They may hide it behind smiles and pretense, but the truth follows them like a shadow. Every sleepless night, every sudden setback, every door that closes, every whisper of doubt, Every sign of disarray in their life is the reflection of the justice they tried to escape. Your healing has become a signal, a cosmic, divine announcement that the season of their ease has ended. They can no longer manipulate, intimidate, or project control over the heart they tried to destroy, because the one they sought to harm has risen with Allah's light, and that rise alone dismantles the very power they thought they held. Your healing didn't just restore you, it exposed them, weakened them, and dismantled the false strength they built upon your suffering. It became the invisible hand of justice, a force moving through time and circumstance, slowly turning their triumphs into reminders of their failures, their arrogance into a cautionary tale of what happens when cruelty meets divine protection, and their control into a hollow echo of the influence they once assumed. And now, as you walk in your clarity, strength, and peace, they are falling, not because you sought revenge, but because Allah's plan is precise, measured, and perfect. The downfall they faced was written the moment they decided to harm a heart Allah Himself was preparing to elevate. And your rise is now the living testament that no cruelty intended for a chosen servant can ever triumph against Allah's decree, and that healing, patience, and faith are the instruments of divine justice that expose, dismantle, and reverse the harm caused by those who showed no mercy. As we reach the end of this journey, remember this: everything you endured was never unseen, never wasted, and never outside Allah's control. Every betrayal, every humiliation, every moment they tried to break you was recorded by the most merciful, and every tear you shed in silence was transformed into a force that now works in your favor. The pain they inflicted, the cruelty they carried, the arrogance they displayed, all of it has set the stage for a divine reversal so precise, so powerful, that it cannot be denied, escaped, or delayed. You are rising while they are trembling, growing while they are faltering, thriving while their plans collapse. And every blessing you receive is a reminder that Allah is the best of planners. This is not just a story of suffering and injustice. This is a story of divine timing, unstoppable du'as, and inevitable justice. Those who sought to harm you thought they had power, but the reality is that your rise, your healing, and your faith are the consequences they fear most. A living testimony that Allah's protection cannot be breached and that no intentional harm toward His chosen servants ever goes unanswered. So stand tall, remain patient, trust in Allah's plan, and never forget: what they meant for evil, Allah is turning for your ultimate good. Every struggle, every test, every wound was intentional in a way only Allah could orchestrate to refine you, elevate you, and place you in a destiny far greater than they ever imagined. And now, as the dust settles and the truth becomes undeniable, know this: the same people who showed you no mercy are now facing repercussions written by Allah Himself, while you, the chosen one, continue to rise, unstoppable, undeniable, and deeply blessed. Keep your heart pure, keep your du'as sincere, keep your faith unshaken, and watch as the one who never forgets, never sleeps, and never fails, turns every pain into power, every trial into triumph, and every betrayal into a stepping stone toward your destined greatness. This is your victory. This is your rise. And this is the divine justice they can never escape.